Hi there, welcome to the channel. Today's video is something a little different, not strictly a tutorial. Those of you who follow me on social media will know that for quite a few years now, I have had the privilege of both making and repairing garter tassels for the Royal Mews Household that form part of the Buckingham Palace livery. Specifically, the garters for the footmen worn on state occasions. This work is exclusively for Her Majesty's Livery Tailors, Henry Poole and Company of Savile Row, working under the direction of Keith Levitt, Master Livery Tailor. I thought that some of you might like to see the processes involved, so we filmed while I worked on some of the most recent tassels. I'll also show you some examples of the repair and makeover of the antique tassels at the end. So, let's get started. The first process is to cover the wooden molds with gold thread. Here I'm making a warp. The thread is very tightly wound with a flat metal strip, meaning it wants to kink onto itself at these longer lengths. It can be difficult to control. The covering is worked by a traditional technique known as satin wrapping. I have a video showing this technique I'll link to below. Because of the twist of the gold thread, I twirl the mold to ensure that the threads are laid flat and not twisted. I also use my needle to smooth out the threads. It's also important that the whole of the tassel mold is not filled. When the tassel mold is covered, the neck area is tightly bound using a waxed linen thread. Using gold gimp thread, which is a type of thread with the metal wrapped at right angles to a group of core threads, the covering is worked. This tends to be known as grappe in passementerie, but is more commonly called netting. It is a detached blanket stitch. Again, the way that this is made means that the gimp wants to continually kink and it must be managed, sometimes forcefully. The underskirt is a length of woven bullion fringe made of metallic threads, which is stitched to the covered tassel mold. The stitching needs to be worked so that the bullions remain intact and so that every one is secured. All of the gold materials are supplied for these tassels, made by specialists in goldwork threads and weaving. They all have a very high gold content. The metal wire bullions, or torsades, must be individually added. First, I stitch each to a piece of tape to ensure that they are secured and hang at the same position. Each one needs to be well secured to the tape. I wait to cut the excess when every bullion is stitched in place. I'll also link below to my video of how you can make a torsade yourself. These bullions are now tacked into place on the tassel. And then I wrap some plastic, I use Hugo's Amazing Tape, around them to stop them from being damaged. If the sewing thread should catch them, they can be ruined, and if I hold too tightly, they'll be crushed. As I am provided with the exact number needed, and a crushed bullion really can't be saved, extra care does have to be taken. This overskirt is then sewn into place through all layers. The ruff is essentially a longer torsade of gold wires, which is used to cover the join between the skirt and the tassel head. The garters are specially woven using real gold, and each is provided cut to a specific length. There is no room for error here. The cut ends are glued, and one end needs to be manipulated to fit within the hole of the tassel. The lace is so stiff that using pliers is helpful. I stitch this into a tight tube shape. The end then has a wire attached to it, both stitched and bound, to allow it to be pulled through the tassel and secured. At this point, I again have to be very careful not to crush those bullions or catch them with the wire. The garter is pulled through tightly. In order to keep the bullions in line and stop them from springing out and looking messy and not very regal, I run waxed thread through the eyes. Then, using a stick, the bullions are eased into position and the underskirt placed neatly if anything is out of line. Because of the nature of the materials, the garters and tassels are only replaced when beyond repair. As I understand it, most that I have made over the past few years have replaced tassels made for the coronation of King George V in 1910. The garments are well cared for by the staff who wear them, and the materials used are able to last. I have also had the opportunity to repair some of these. As the finished garters are stitched to the breeches, or breeches as the tailor calls them, I am sent the entire garment. Here you can see that the metal bullions are bent, crushed, or simply missing, and that the damage is on both tassels. The garters themselves, though showing signs of wear, are not too badly damaged, especially as they are over 100 years old. These bullions needed to be carefully removed, then replaced with new bullions, while the ruff, which needed to be removed to access the bullions, was turned so that the slightly brighter side shows. This then meant that the join between the old and the new was not so stark. So, the next time you watch a big royal event here, try to see if you can spot the tassels on the breeches of the footmen. Thanks so much for watching. Do please subscribe and click like if you enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments if this sort of video is something that you do like watching. Thanks again. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.